in this video today, we're going to be going over my updated sensitivity, settings, dead zones, binds, and pretty much anything else you could ever ask for. But this video will be released about a day before the beginning of Fortnite Season 10, so these are definitely going to be all the different settings that I'm using going into the new season. And the good thing about this video is, for the first time in a few months, I've actually made a significant amount of really interesting changes to my sensitivity, settings, and dead zones specifically. You guys know I'm not usually a huge fan of changes, but I really do believe that they've made me a better player and made my settings better as a whole. So that's enough about that, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so let's start this video off by going over my updated sensitivities going into Fortnite Season 10. If you guys have been rocking with my channel for the last 2 or 3 seasons, you may know that I've been on 0.65x and 0.60y sensitivity ever since about Season 7 or so. But that has finally changed, and as you can see on the screen right now, I'm now on 0.675x and 0.65y. So definitely not the most insane change in the world. It's not like I went from 0.65x and 0.60y to like 0.9x and 0.9y. But as I'm sure you guys are aware, even just small changes to sensitivity really can make a big difference at the end of the day. And the reason why I did this is because I felt that 0.65x and 0.60y was just a tad bit too slow, especially for some of the close-range shotgun fights you get into. I initially tried 0.7x and 0.7y, but that just felt a little bit too fast for me, and also, since I was used to having a slightly higher X than Y sensitivity, having them both be the same thing actually felt a lot more uncomfortable than I anticipated. So to counter both of those problems, I then decided to drop down to 0.675x and 0.65y, which is obviously what I ended up settling on. However, even though I changed my X and Y sensitivity, I also wanted to keep my targeting sensitivity the exact same. Now, due to the fact that targeting sensitivity isn't an independent value, and actually is just a multiplier of your X and Y sensitivity, it meant that I actually needed to change that as well. So because I raised my X and Y sensitivity, to balance it out, I needed to lower my targeting sensitivity multiplier. In the last settings video, that was at 0.427, and now it's been moved down slightly to 0.405. If you do the calculations, which I actually sat down and did one day, it results in me having almost the exact same targeting sensitivity as I had before, which is absolutely perfect in my opinion. And I tried to do the same thing with scope sensitivity, moving it down from 0.398 to 0.375, but honestly, I'm not a very good sniper, so that's the sensitivity value that I'm least confident in, and also the one that I really don't care all that much about. Now, moving on to building and editing sensitivity, they're still both maxed out at 2.0, but I want to give a word of caution here that hopefully you guys will actually listen to before just copying every sensitivity you saw. Having 6.75x sensitivity and 6.5y sensitivity paired with a 2.0 multiplier basically means that you're building and editing with the equivalent of 13.5x and 13.0y sensitivity. For me personally, since I play on a combination of really high FPS and really low ping, mixed with the fact that I do a lot of building and editing practice, I really like my building and editing sensitivity being that high. However, if you're one of the many people watching this video that just plays Fortnite on a normal console where your highest possible FPS is 60, and a lot of the time you'll be more towards 40 or 50, 13.5x and 13y building and editing sensitivity may simply be too high for you. And that's especially the case if you're someone that plays on a high ping, or if you're not that great of a builder or editor to begin with. So the best advice I can give you is to use the X, Y targeting and scope sensitivity as a baseline, and then play around with the building and editing until you find the values you're most comfortable with. Alright, so now moving on to settings. I know I've changed one or two pretty important things here, but most of these settings are pretty standard for the most part and haven't changed since my last video. So as they show on the screen right now, I'll kinda highlight the important ones. Sprint by default being on is definitely the biggest thing I've switched since last video. It does take a little while to get used to, but this is definitely something you want to have on because it enables you to use your left stick as another possible bind option. I like having tap to search/interact on, I have hold to swap pickup turned off, I have edit mode aim assist turned off, but I've actually heard that for some players that play on really high editing sensitivity, it can actually be helpful to turn on, and I believe Ghost Camo is one of the more popular controller players that uses edit mode aim assist. So maybe give it a shot if you're someone with high editing sensitivity that's struggling. Controller auto run I have off since it can be annoying in certain fights. Auto open doors is an interesting one that some players have on, but I never really saw the use in it, so that's why I have it off. And obviously you definitely want to have Builder Pro builds immediately turned off. Controller edit hold time doesn't matter if you have edit bound to a different button than whatever pulls out your building menu, which is definitely something you want to do if you haven't already. And finally, I have vibration turned off. The next setting I want to cover is my controller dead zones, which I've actually changed a bit. I believe the last time you guys saw my dead zones, I had 0.24 for the left stick and 0.27 for the right stick. Well, as I said in that video, my plan was to bring those dead zone values slightly lower over time. In case you're unfamiliar with what dead zones do, they basically determine how much movement on the thumbsticks is needed to actually register in-game movements. So in a way, lower dead zones mean you have a little bit more control over your aim, and that's the main reason why I lowered mine to 0.19 on the left stick and 0.22 on the right stick. I may continue to experiment with this as time goes on, since that's still a little bit high, but for now, I'm really liking the new dead zones. The next thing we need to discuss in this video are custom binds. So for the majority of sensitivity and settings in this video, I really believe that mine are about as good as they get. But with my custom binds on the other hand, that simply isn't the case. My binds aren't horrible, and I'll still show them to you just because a lot of people always ask, but I would really recommend watching my video titled The Best Custom Binds for All Controller Fortnite Players that I made a few weeks ago. That goes